Well, hello, ladies and gents. My name's Phil, and I'm just going to spend a few minutes sharing with you my story, how homelessness can really affect quite a wide cross-section of society, and not just the stereotypes that we all know. Also, professional people can find themselves in trouble too. So I can promise it's not too depressing. There is a good outcome at the end, so stick with me. So I was married. I had a 30-year career in aerospace technology, and I was responsible for managing overseas business development. So there was a huge amount of travel involved with that. But I had a bit of a crossroads around 8 years ago. My parents were both terminally ill. Mum had cancer, Dad had Alzheimer's, and I didn't have any siblings to help me with their care. But I also had a son who required 4 heart operations. I had a wife who couldn't drive, unfortunately, through medical reasons. So the pressure was really on. And my company would be saying, well, shouldn't Phil be in Tokyo this month? And in actual fact, I was busy plate spinning between care homes and Birmingham Children's Hospital. So unfortunately, a 30-year career came to a sudden end. And by this time I was really quite burnt out, and I really felt that I needed to jump off the commercial rat race. Now, I'd always been interested in filming and photography, and I found a bit of a niche putting together people's life stories at events. So I would go and scan photos, digitally restore them, put them to almost like a slideshow, set to music, and display that on a portable display at events. And that kind of worked, but it was always bumping along. It never really took off. And I found myself increasingly dipping into my pensions. And another string of events came along, unfortunately involving myself being assaulted by my landlord, which unfortunately was a family member, and that was the initial trigger for my homelessness. It really wasn't safe to return home. So as a last-ditch ploy, I decided to move into a small hotel in Harwich, thinking that would be a temporary stopgap. But by this time my mental health had really taken quite a battering, and I had stress-related issues, a clear case of PTSD. Funds continued to ebb away. I was desperately trying to prop up my business, working on websites on my laptop, but threaded throughout all of this, of course, COVID kicked in, which was really the final nail in the coffin. So approaching Christmas of 21, as a last-ditch money-saving ploy, I decided to move into my car, again thinking that would be a temporary stopgap. So Starbucks became an extremely regular haunt. I would make a very expensive cup of coffee last 7 hours. I'd be using their Wi-Fi with my laptop on my knees, desperately trying to prop up my business and get things moving. And I would use their disabled loos to keep a reasonable standard of hygiene. But I was very, very low at this point. In fact, I was suicidal, and I really felt my funds ebbing away as a countdown to jumping off the Orwell Bridge. To make matters worse, all my winter clothes and bedding was locked away in my storage, and unfortunately if you owe them money, they don't let you get your stuff. So I was periodically turning the heater on in the car at night, watching the fuel gauge get lower and lower, and finally the heater packed up. Now, I've always enjoyed cooking, and I have to say that I like reasonably wholesome food, but I was living on cold microwave meals, and as a special treat every now and again I would have a Big Mac. I can tell you I've not been back to McDonald's for 4 years now, or 5 years, so that's probably not such a bad thing. But I was at crisis point, and I recall popping into Sainsbury's to use their loos at Christmas time, and I would see happy families loading their shopping into their cars. And I've got to say, I'd really come out of there in tears. It was a pretty awful time. So I called the Samaritans, and what lovely people. They were fantastic. But there was no real tangible help, nothing that I could grasp hold of to turn things around. And it was at this point that I contacted Shelter, and things completely changed from there on in. Jenny was unhurried. I was upset for some of the call, but she listened to my story and helped me put together an action plan. Where to get hot food, where to get washing done, but more importantly, the benefit structure. Going on the dole was something completely alien to me. I had absolutely no idea about universal credit. And Jenny empowered me to get that help that I needed. It was not something to be embarrassed about. I'd paid my taxes for decades, and it was my time to get the help that I needed. And Jenny empowered me to do that, to take that next step. And also the first steps of housing. That was again something alien to me. I had no idea of what potentially could be available to me in terms of accommodation. And Jenny gave me a plan on contact details on how to take that forward. So stemming from those housing council contacts, I was placed in temporary accommodation, and boy, that was no frills. But it was a safe, warm place to be, and especially after the isolation of being on your own, it was good to be around people again. As I mentioned, I like cooking, and on a Saturday night I would cook curry for 12 people, and there was a family between houses, and little Emma would help me chop up the herbs and spices. It was a good atmosphere. It was great to be with people again. Quite a cross-section of people, not normally the sort of folks I would necessarily associate with, but it was good. Today I'm in a comfortable, stable environment, in an apartment. It's safe and warm, and more importantly, I have a clear headspace to be creative again. I'm studying microelectronics and software coding. Also got a 3D printer, so I sit and design some crazy invention in the morning over coffee, and come the evening have some wacky prototype coming off my 3D printer, which is really good fun. So Dragon's Den, watch this space. Just come through a health journey. I've had both my knees replaced, so osteoarthritis is something that's in the rear view mirror now. And I'm now in a great place, both physically and mentally. Joined cycling clubs, and so I've got a quality circle of new friends. I also see a lot of my son now, who successfully got through his heart operations, so life is good. But without exaggeration, the intervention from Shelter really has saved my life. And I've had a reboot thanks to their help. So it's Phil, version 2.0, onwards and upwards. Thank you.